PubCo Studios in Oklahoma City. You're watching the Press Row. I'm Jenny Carlson here with Barry Trammell. Time for our 5 in 5 segment. We've got 5 topics, about a minute each for 5 minutes, 5 in 5. Let's start with some Thunder, Barry, and go with this question. What is the biggest worry right now with this team?
Well, I think the biggest worry going into the playoffs is health. Can these guys stay healthy? They were so good. They were unbreakable for so long. Same starting 5 night after night after night. Then last spring we saw the unfathomable. Russell Westbrook goes down. The Thunder gets beat in the second round. This year, Russ has missed a ton of games. Perks missed a ton of games. Tabo's missed a ton of games. They're all back. They're looking good. But if anybody goes down, Tabo, Perk, anybody, you can tell the Thunder's a little bit vulnerable without the band together. Health is the biggest worry.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, but I'll take a slightly different track and say there's another worry, and that's the minutes that Kevin Durant has played. I chronicled this earlier in the season that he was definitely on track to play over 3,000 minutes. I haven't looked at his total lately, but I got to think he's close, if not there already. Guys that in recent years have played over 3,000 minutes are some guys that you would recognize, name some of the biggest superstars in the league. But in those years that they played over 3,000 minutes, their teams did not win NBA championships. So with Durant playing a lot of minutes, and he had to with Westbrook's injury and these other injuries that have really decimated that starting lineup, is he going to be at his best in the playoffs? I think that's a question because they're going to need him to be playing at a high level. We've seen that streak of 25-point games end. Maybe that takes some burden off his shoulders a little bit. He can kind of rest this last week or so, but I think those minutes are going to be interesting to see how they all play out. All right, what about this one, Barry? Let's take a happier track. What's the biggest positive with this team right now?
Well, it's sort of the converse of that, which is the band is back together. Yeah. And presto, everything is healed. You get Tabo and Perk's defense back. We've seen in just 2 games, we've seen a big difference. So I think the Thunder got healthy at the right time. I was worried about this team being able to get back and get defensive chemistry together when everybody returned, but it appears that it's happened. I mean, the Clippers had some moments on Wednesday night, but for the most part, the Thunder D'd them up very, very well. That was missing for the most of the last 2 months. So I think the Thunder's rounding into form just at the right time, and that defense with those 5 guys is very good.
Yeah, it is very good. You know, and I think when you think about positives, I mean, obviously positives are you've got Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook on the roster, and they're both playing well right now. Those are huge positives in my mind. But I think another big positive is Serge Ibaka. He's been playing pretty darn well of late. Obviously, his defense is normally there, but you get Kendrick Perkins back, and Serge can play a lot more of that role where he's able to know that Perk's behind him. He's got his back. He doesn't have to worry so much about what's happening in the paint. He can really guard guys, block shots, do those sorts of things. And then you add this offensive game. You know, maybe he's not great every night, but we're seeing him more and more be a weapon that they can go to on both ends of the floor. So I like the fact that they've got that third leg of scores that make them even more difficult for teams to guard. All right, a little true-false, Barry. The Thunder is staggering into the playoffs. Now, obviously, these back-to-back wins on the West Coast might taint this a little bit, but I've heard some people feel like this team may be staggering a little bit.
Well, I'm going to say false. It would have been true about 48 hours ago, but it's false now because we've seen this Thunder team really just sort of going on the treadmill for since February, really. Play well some, play poorly others. Not a lot of games against elite competition. When it did happen, they were sort of shaky. Russell Westbrook comes back, but still hit and miss with not playing the back-to-back. I was not optimistic about where the Thunder was. But since those guys got back for 2 games, they've looked very well. Caron Butler said something very interesting the other night. He said, this is about 2 weeks ago, he said, about 5 games left. That's when we're going to get hitting our stride. Thunder had 5 games left going into Wednesday night against the Clippers. Played very well. Caron Butler's been around the block a time or 2. I think he sort of had a good gauge on what was going on. I like where the Thunder is right now.
You know, I even said that this was false. The Thunder was not staggering into the playoffs even before these West Coast games. Obviously, that buoys the argument. But here's the deal. You want to see struggling, staggering into the playoffs, Look in the East. Look at what's happening in Indianapolis. Look at what's happening in Miami. Teams that are supposed to be the teams that are going to emerge from the East are struggling to win games right now. Now, part of that may be just, sort of having those mental letdowns. The playoffs aren't here. They're resting guys, all that sort of thing. I get that. But Thunder is still winning a lot of games. And I think that this whole idea of staggering in Oklahoma, I think that still sort of is part of our football mentality, Barry. We're still a college football heavy state. People still look at every game matters. It's of the utmost importance. In an 82-game season, would you like to play your best every night? Of course. But it doesn't always happen. Sometimes you got some letdowns. All right, let's talk fun question of the week, Barry. Now that Katie's streak of 25-point games is over, what's your most impressive streak?
Well, at the risk of stealing from Jerry Seinfeld, I actually once went 23 straight years without throwing up. 1984, September of 84, I got sick on a Saturday. I couldn't even go to work. I think I've called in sick once in my life. It was in September of 1984. From then until 2007, I did not throw up. And then I had a wild night. Me and my daughter were at home alone with her daughter, 1-year-old Riley. And Haley, my daughter, was sick. I got sick. She was in one bathroom. I was in one bathroom. And little Riley's going back and forth trying to figure out what the adults in her life are doing. But no, 23 straight years without throwing up. When I was a kid, I threw up all the time. Then I go 23 straight years.
And you even made it through the cruise of the nightmare cruise.
That's right. That's exactly right. I didn't throw up on the Ship of Misery in Miami when the whole ship got sick.
Yeah. So that's pretty good. You know what? I'm not sure I've got enough willpower to say I've had a really impressive streak. I was trying to think of how many consecutive days or weeks have I gone without caffeine or chocolate, since this is the Lenten season. People give up all sorts of stuff that are vices. I don't have that much self-control, Barry. I have no streak. Maybe my streak is I think I've had a chocolate chip cookie at least one every week since I've been here. I mean, 15
really?
At least one chocolate chip cookie per week for 15 years. That's a pretty good streak, right? If you like chocolate chip cookies, which I do.
I mean, I think you once went 15 minutes without combing your hair, so maybe that...
and we know you comb yours once a day,
whether I needed it or not.
Exactly. All right, back to the important stuff. It's the red-white game on Saturday, Barry. OU ends its spring football season. Player you're most excited to see?
I'm not sure of who the player is, but I know what the player is. A wide receiver. Sterling Shepard is not playing Saturday in the red-white game. That means nobody on the field except for Aaron Ripkowski and Michael Honeycutt has ever caught a college football touchdown pass. Sooners are going to have to find some receivers. Is it Deron Neal, Derek Woods? Is it going to be one of the freshmen, Cavill, Dallas Todd, somebody like that? Who's going to step up and be a contributor at wide receiver? And I'm anxious to see who it is. I guess I'd like to see Derek Woods for Saturday because he came into the Sugar Bowl. We didn't even remember his number, didn't even remember he played for him. He makes a great leaping catch in a clutch situation when the Sooners had to throw to him. So one of those young receivers, I'm anxious to see what they can produce on Saturday.
Well, I've got two, actually. It's sort of along the lines of wide receiver, but I'm looking at who's the other cornerback. I want to know who's going to start and play and be solid on the other side of the field from Zach Sanchez. Zach Sanchez had his struggles last year, but he's obviously the most prepared to be in that cornerback position. But who's the other guy? Who's going to fit that role, and are they ready to go? I'm going to be interested to see that. I also, the name I would like to see most is Keith Ford, a guy that was really exciting last year when he got a chance to get on the field but had the fumble problems. How good is he? I think that's a big question. I think he's going to have to really assert himself now and throughout the summer because this Joe Mixon guy coming in is apparently electric. So can Keith Ford have the kind of spring that he holds that job? I don't know. We're going to have to see, but I'm really excited to see him on Saturday. Hey, be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.